Hi, this is Usha. Welcome to Rathod Science classes. Today in this lecture, we are going to discuss current affairs of 23rd November 2021. In this lecture, we are going to discuss 6 topics which are very much relevant to our UPSC. So let's get started with our discussion and let us try to see some important topics that appear in today's Hindu newspaper. So first one here is President gives away gallantry awards. So actually in 2021 prelims you got questions from awards. So we are not going to take any chance. So we are going to discuss about this gallantry awards that will be important from our awards point of view. And this one is authoritarian is not on the rise, says report. Okay, says is on the rise. Okay, so if you are talking about authoritarianism, that is nothing but power which is vested with a single individual. Okay, so that is a power which is vested with the government or single individual. So he is authority, is sole authority. So here authoritarianism is the one of is on rise. Okay, so there is increasing of authoritarianism that is mainly seen. So one important reason I can say here is because of this COVID-19 and COVID-19 related restrictions. And we are moving away from democracy and we are mainly moving towards this authoritarianism. So this is according to this report. And this article will be important from our polity point of view, which mainly comes under GS paper 2. And next topic it is about domestic workers says survey kicks off. Okay, so this article mainly says about this domestic workers. So what is the background? Due to this COVID-19 pandemic, so these informal workers like domestic workers, they mostly hit. And we discussed number of reports regarding these domestic workers in our earlier lectures. As we studied so there is increasing of rate of unemployment in these informal workers, and also some people they lost their income as well, and there is decreasing of income. And one more thing is whatever the work they had done earlier this COVID-19 pandemic, so they also lost those money. So this is a thing and this will be important from our economy point of view. And next topic is about Australia signs sub deal with US and UK. So here you need to know about this AUKUS. Okay, it is a trilateral strategic partnership between Australia, UK and US. So this article will be important from our international relations, which mainly comes under our GS paper 2. And next topic it is about data protection bill. Okay, so in this topic it is at most important from your mains point of view, which mainly comes in the GS paper 2 polity. And this one is fertilizer subsidy. So this fertilizer subsidy is very important thing, because as we all know government is providing subsidy for this fertilizers, and there are number of issues which are mainly faced by government regarding this fertilizer subsidy. So first one is there is increasing of burden, fiscal burden on government. And if you are comparing with the one state to another state and even country to country, there is a large difference of this prices of this fertilizer. And not only that, it will also lead into some environmental related degradation and soil pollution, and as well as groundwater pollution, etc. So this article mainly talking about 4 important things that can be taken. So these are the some important topics that we are going to discuss in this lecture. So first topic it is about gallantry awards. So president gives away gallantry awards. Okay, so if you see this person already very much famous. He is Abhinandan, right? Wing Commander Abhinandan. Okay, so here after this 2019 Pulwama attack, our India also came with retaliation of this Balkot attacks. So in that Balkot attack, so this person, so after this Balkot attack, so this person mainly had caught by this Pakistani forces, and he was under Pakistan control for 3 days. Later on according to number of conventions, so he mainly released, right? So this article is very important from our awards point of view. If you're talking about context, why it is in news, a group captain Abhinandan Varthaman, who was held captive for 3 days by Pakistan after chased and downed a Pakistani fighter jet in 2019. So after this Balkot attack, what happened? So one fighter jet mainly was chased and made it down or crashed by this Abhinandan. But what happened? So unfortunately, so this MiG fighter jet, which mainly fall down in this Pakistan territory, not in India's territory, and unfortunately he was caught by this Pakistan forces. And this person awarded this Veer Chakra. So Veer Chakra, it is the third highest wartime gallantry award. And now if you're talking about some important facts regarding this gallantry awards in India, so these gallantry awards, they were constituted by our government of India. So when it came up in year 1950 on January 26th, and it got deemed to be effect from 15th August 1947. And if you see some more important points regarding this gallantry awards, so further on 4th January 1952, 3 more gallantry awards, Ashok Chakra Class 1, Ashok Chakra Class 2 and Ashok Chakra Class 3, they were instituted by Government of India on 4th January 1952. So these awards later on renamed as Ashok Chakra, Kirti Chakra and Shaurya Chakra in year 1967. And next one is gallantry awards. They are announced twice in India. So first one is on occasion of independence and second one is on occasion of Republic Day. And if you're talking about these awards, these gallantry awards, we are having mainly two types of these awards. So first one is wartime gallantry awards, and they are mainly given during war times and as well as battles. And these awards, they are given for a valor shown on battlefield in the face of enemy, and it mainly includes Param Veer Chakra, Mahavir Chakra and as well as Veer Chakra. So wartime gallantry awards mainly includes Param Veer Chakra and as well as Mahavir Chakra and Veer Chakra. So now Abhinandan ji got this Veer Chakra. And if you're talking about gallantry awards during peace, and these awards mainly given for courage and as well as bravery which shown away in the battlefield. Okay, and these mainly includes Ashoka Chakra, Kirti Chakra and next one is Shaurya Chakra. And now let us try to talk about next topic. It is about authoritarianism is on rise, says report. So there is increasing of authoritarianism, that is seen over democracy. Over democracy, there is increasing of authoritarianism, that mainly seen. So this article will be important regarding GS paper 2 under polity point of view. If you are talking about context, why it is in news. So the number of countries moving towards authoritarianism in 2020, it was higher than that of countries that are going in the other direction. So many countries, they are mainly moving towards this authoritarianism rather than this democracy. So rather than this democracy, in so many countries, they are mainly moving towards this authoritarianism. So it is according to Global State of Democracy Report 2021, and you have to remember this report and you have to see which organization which is mainly releasing this report. Okay, so if you see some more facts here, so this authoritarianism which is mainly increasing in this 2020, and this is according to Global State of Democracy Report 2021, and this report mainly released by International Institute of Democracy and Electoral Assistance. Okay, so it is by International Institute for Democracy and Electoral Assistance. So if you see some details, it mainly says that, so while 20 countries, they moved in direction of this authoritarianism, and 7 countries mainly moved towards this democracy. Okay, so 20 countries mainly move towards this authoritarianism, and 7 countries, they mainly move towards this democracy. So this COVID-19 pandemic, which had a prolonged effect in mainly regarding this authoritarianism. Okay, and if you are talking about democratically elected governments, including established democracies, they are increasingly adopting authoritarian tactics. Okay, so democratically elected governments, they mainly move towards this adopting of this authoritarian tactics. And apart from that, this report also highlighted the case of Brazil and India as some of the most worrying examples for this black siding. So because of this, what happened here, because of because of this COVID-19, so many countries, they are mainly moving back to this authoritarianism. And this report mainly highlighted that even in Brazil and as well as India, some of the most worrying examples of this backsliding that is mainly seen. And if you see, India mainly remained in the category of a mid-level performing democracy, and it has since 2000. Okay, so if you're talking about this, India remained in the category of a mid-level performing democracy. Okay, and it has since 2000. And if you're talking about here regarding this report, US and other three members of this European Union, for example Hungary and as well as Poland and Slovenia, they have seen some concerns regarding this democratic declines. And this one is in non-democratic regimes, so the trend was deepening here. And it said that the year 2020, it was the worst on record in terms of countries which are mainly affected by this authoritarianism. So due to this authoritarianism, number of countries now mainly move towards this, that is more than many countries in this 2020 because of this COVID-19 pandemic. And the pandemic, in this way we can say, it also affected this political damaging. Okay, it is also led to political damaging, or we can say like damaging effect on non-democratic countries, etc. And if you're talking about some facts, it mainly says that the uneven global distribution of COVID-19 vaccines as well as anti-vaccine views, they undermine the uptake of vaccination programs, and they undermine about the risk prolonging this health crisis and even normalizing restrictions on basic freedoms. Okay, so here in this way we can say that COVID-19 vaccination distribution, and even we can see there is an inequity or inequality that is seen between the countries and countries regarding this vaccine development, manufacturing, and as well as supply of these vaccines. So because of all these things, that led to increasing of risk. Okay, risk prolonging in this health crisis that is mainly seen because of this inavailability of vaccines, and as well as we can say like there is no proper service which are mainly provided by hospitals. So if you're talking about what is this authoritarianism, so authoritarianism nothing but it is a form of government. It is a form of government where the power is concentrated between the leaders or leaders of the country. So if, for example, if for a country so and so leader is present, so with this leader there is a concentration of the power. I can say like example like a monarchy or any king dynasty during medieval period or ancient period. So there we can see whole authority will be our king. So in the same way, authoritarian is nothing but it is a form of government where the power is concentrated between the leader or leaders of the country. So in other words, if you see about this authoritarian government which has one person or group to control politics, and there is no limits on power and as well as accountability. So this is gist of this topic. And now let us try to see next topic. It is about domestic worker survey kicks off. So this article mainly important from our GS paper 3 under economy. Now let us try to see this topic in a very great detail. So if you see context, it mainly says that All India Survey, okay, AIS, on domestic workers, which mainly released by Labour and Employment Minister, our Minister for Labour and Employment. He released this All India Survey on domestic workers. So if we're talking about details, it mainly says that so the survey being carried out by Labour Bureau, and it was aimed at eliminating or estimating the number of domestic workers. Okay, so actually this survey which is done by Labour Bureau, it is regarding how many people are working in this domestic sector. That is nothing but estimating of the number of domestic workers at the national level and as well as at the state level. Okay, Labour Bureau which mainly conducted the survey to estimate people who are working in this domestic sector, especially in this national and as well as at the state level. And also it will focus on those engaged in the informal employment and migrant and non-migrant workers. Okay, so it also includes even informal employment and also migrant and as well as non-migrant workers. So the proportion of these domestic workers who stay at their employer's home, those who do not, the wages of these such workers and other social economic factors, they also impacted. So if I am working in anywhere, means if they are providing me accommodation, means they will be giving me less salary, and if I am not accepting any accommodation from them, means they will be giving more salary. So in the same way here, so this survey which mainly engaged in informal employment and migrant and as well as even non-migrant workers, and will be also focuses on the proportion of these domestic workers who stay at their employees' homes. And this one survey would also include details of number of households with live-in and live-out domestic workers, and the average number of workers who are engaged by the various kinds of households. So if you see this point, it mainly says that the survey will also include mainly the number of households who live in and as well as live out domestic workers, and even it focused on average number of workers engaged by various kinds of households. So if we're talking about further more details, it mainly says that it would also include details about the size of the household, religion, and as well as a societal group, monthly consumption expenditure, etc. All these things mainly included. So whenever this type of information is included, so that will be very much important for policy making by the government, policy implementation of the government. And next one is information about domestic workers, including their age, social group, migrant status, and as well as duration of work and types of remuneration they also collected. So what is the significance? As you all know, in India of economy, domestic workers in India, they constitute a significant number of this total population or total employment in this informal sector. So because of this, government need to come up with some steps. And next one is the data mainly lacks on the magnitude and prevailing employment conditions of the domestic workers. Okay, so this data mainly lacks on this magnitude and as well as prevailing employment conditions. And even next one is, so because of all these things, government of India need to have some time mainly to go with that types of service, then that will be helpful very much for our policy implementation. So this is just of this topic, and now let us try to see next topic. Title says Australia signs swap deal with US UK. Actually, this article will be important from our international relations. Here you need to know about AUKUS. AUKUS, it is a trilateral strategic partnership between Australia, UK and US. So first let us try to see this topic, and we are going to see some basics regarding this AUKUS that will be helpful for your revision purpose as well. So if we are talking about context, it mainly says that Australia formally embarked on a hotly contested program to equip its navy with nuclear-powered submarines in a new defense alliance with Britain and as well as US. So what happened in this AUKUS? In this partnership, they mainly signed to come up with nuclear-powered submarine. So there will be help which is provided from UK and as well as US to provide nuclear-related submarine for this Australia. So Australia formally embarked on hotly contested program to equip its navy with nuclear powered submarine in a new defense alliance with Britain and as well as US. So if you see details, it mainly says that defense minister joined US and British diplomats in signing an agreement allowing the exchange of sensitive naval nuclear propulsion information between their nation. So what happened? Defense minister from Australia, he joined US and as well as British diplomats regarding signing of an agreement. So this agreement mainly involves exchange of sensitive naval nuclear propulsion information to build this nuclear related submarine in Australia. So it is the first agreement on technology to be publicly signed since three countries they announced this trilateral strategic partnership between these three, that is AUKUS. So what is the significance? So this deal will help Australia to complete 18 month study into this submarine procurement. So regarding the submarine procurement, so this agreement will be very important. And now let us try to talk about what is this AUKUS. If you're talking about this AUKUS, it is under AUKUS alliance, so these three nations, for example, Australia, UK and as well as US, they have agreed to enhance development of joint capabilities, and even they came with this technology sharing, and they will also help to foster and to deeper integration of security in and as well as defense related science, technology, and as well as industrial bases and even supply chains in this Indo-Pacific region. And under this AUKUS, the first important thing that you need to remember here is Australia would build a fleet nuclear powered submarine. So in this way it will be getting some help from US and as well as UK. And now let us try to see next topic. It is about falling short regarding our data protection bill. So this article, it is at most important. And now let us try to see some important points. So if you see here central theme, it mainly says a JPC bill. So what is this JPC? You need to know. First of all, let us try to understand what is this JPC. So JPC, it is nothing but Joint Parliamentary Committee. So JPC stands for Joint Parliamentary Committee. It is to set up to examine a particular bill presented before the Parliament or for the purpose of investigating cases of financial irregularities in any government activity. Okay, so if you are talking about this JPC, Joint Parliamentary Committee, it is mainly set up to examine a particular bill. So whenever any bill which is mainly placed before Parliament, so if it is of urgent importance, and then that will be sent to this Joint Parliamentary Committee, and this Joint Parliamentary Committee will do some investigation and it will come up with a report. Actually this JPC, it is an ad hoc body and it mainly set up for a period of time, and the important aim to address it is a special issue. So after addressing that, then there will be a dissolving of this Joint Parliamentary Committee, and you have to remember it is for a given period of time. And if you are talking about context, why this JPC is in news, because recently a parliamentary panel deliberating on this personal data bill has made some recommendations. So now let us try to see what are those recommendations regarding this data protection bill. So first one is they are mainly going to limit exemptions which are available to government under current version by placing some reasonable restrictions. So it can place some reasonable restrictions. And this one is government be exempted only under just, fair, reasonable and as well as proportionate procedure. And next one is the government keep on non-personal data including anonymous data outside the purview of this personal data protection bill. So first one is it is mainly limiting the exemptions. So what are the exemptions which are given in our data protection bill? It is mainly limiting exemptions which are available for the government. And next one is government be exempted only under just, fair, reasonable and as well as proportionate procedure. So only in these cases only there is exemption. And next one is government keep non-personal data including anonymous data outside the purview, okay, outside the purview of this personal data protection bill. And if you are talking about background regarding this bill, draft of this data protection bill 2019, which mainly referred to this JPC, Joint Parliamentary Committee in 2019, and Parliament asked this Joint Parliamentary Committee to investigate and to come up with any recommendations. So if you are talking about issue here, so what is the issue regarding this data protection bill? We have many issues. First one is regarding clause 35 of this data protection bill, which mainly allows government and some agencies, they will get some exemptions from complying with any of all provisions of this bill. So because of this there is no checks and balances. So this is the first important thing. And next one is there are many agencies, for example Aadhaar Authority, that is UIDAI, and income tax departments, they already have sought the exempted from this bill. Okay, they have already sought to be exempted from the bill. And apart from this, now if you see some details of this bill, that is Personal Data Protection Bill 2019, it mainly says that, so first of all this bill originated or genesis, so that is the birth of this bill lies with a report of this Justice B. N. Sri Krishna Committee. So this Justice B. N. Sri Krishna Committee, which mainly recommended for this data protection bill in India. So based on that we came with this draft Personal Data Protection Bill. Okay, and the committee was constituted by the government in the course of hearing before Supreme Court after this right to privacy. So right to privacy, which is a fundamental right, now it comes under the Article 21A, Article 21 of our Indian Constitution. This is one of the question in our 2021 prelims and even 2018 prelims. Okay, So after this case put to some judgment, here Supreme Court said that this right to privacy, which is also a fundamental right, which mainly comes under our Article 21 of our Indian Constitution. So here what happened, if you are talking about some key provisions of this bill, so this bill mainly says that, so data, it is a principle. So as per this data protection bill, it is individual whose data is being stored and as well as proceeded. Okay, so it is an individual whose data it is being proceeded and as well as stored. Social media companies, they which are mainly deemed that significant data fiduciaries based on the factors as the volume and sensitivity of data and as well as turnover, they should develop own user verification mechanism. So this bill also said that if you are having different types of social media companies, for example Facebook, WhatsApp and as well as Insta, etc. So these are deemed the significant data fiduciaries. They are mainly based on the factors such as volume and as well as sensitivity of data. And as well as it mainly said that, so they need to, these companies, they should develop their own user verification mechanism. And apart from that, an independent regulator data protection agency, that is DPA, will also oversee the assessments and as well as audits and definition making. Okay, and as soon as each company will have data protection officer. So each company will have some data protection officer, and these data protection officer, they will in relation with this DPA data protection agency, and they will go for auditing, grievance redressal, and as well as they will go for recording the maintenance and some important functions they need to do. And this bill also grants individual the right to data portability and as well as ability to access and transfer one of their own data. And if you're talking about some more important detail, it also talked about right to forgotten. That means if any individual, they want to remove their data, okay, they need to go for removing of this data, that to be done by these companies. So this is some of the important topics. And if you're talking about what are the concerns now, so bill, it is like a two-sided sword. So on one side it mainly says that personal data of individuals is protected such that it can be helpful for empowering the data personal rights. On other hand, it also says that the central government had gave some exceptions against the principles of processing of this personal data. Okay, so this is the first important concern. And second one is government, they can process even sensitive personal data which needed, okay, without explicit permission from the data personals. So it is also one of the data breach. So this is just of this topic, and now let us try to see next topic. Title says reforming fertilizer sector. So it is especially talking about this fertilizer sector. So now let us try to understand this topic. So this topic will be important from our economy point of view, which mainly comes under our GS paper 3, and especially for your mains, not for your prelims. So if you are talking about this fertilizer sector in India since 1991. So in 1991 we came with this LPG, liberalization, privatization and as well as globalization. So since 1991, so when economic reforms that began in India, so we made several attempts, several tries to reform this fertilizer sector. Okay, so in this way we can also keep check on rising fertilizer subsidy bill. So one example I can give you here. For example, if you are having a 1 acre of land and you need to go for sowing here. So in the sowing you need to also add fertilizer such that only the plants will grow very much fast and they will be getting required NPK, nitrogen, potassium and as well as phosphorus, right? So this is some important things. But what happened? So because of lack of awareness, so one packet is enough for, let us take example like 1 acre, but they are spraying 5 packets of this fertilizer in that same 1 acre. So because of this inefficient use of this fertilizer, we need to make awareness. Okay, and if you see further more details, it mainly says that to promote the most effective use of these fertilizers, which mainly achieve based use of this NPK, that is nitrogen, phosphorus and as well as potassium, and also they will helpful in reducing of water pollution, air pollution, which mainly caused by this fertilizers as well. So if you're talking about fertilizer subsidy in India, so under India's subsidy, okay, under the subsidy regime in India, farmers, they can buy this fertilizer at a maximum retail price. But one important thing here is, So this maximum retail price, that is I can say like MRP, which is below normal supply demand, okay, normal supply demand based market rates. And because of this we can see there will be increasing of cost of this fertilizer. So first one is, whenever there is an increase in the demand but supply is decreased, means there will be increase in prices, that is we can say that demand pull inflation, right? And in the same way here, MRP it is normal below this MRP it is below this normal supply and demand based market rates. Okay, so because of this increase in the demand, there is less amount of availability of packets. And if you are talking about this MRP for urea, it is collected or it is mainly fixed by the government for especially DAP and as well as MOP. So what is this DAP? DAP is nothing but dioxide ammonium phosphate. So let me know whether it is correct or not. So what is this DAP and what is this MOP? So these are nothing but fertilizers. They mainly contain potassium, phosphorus and as well as potassium and as well as nitrogen. So the maximum retail price of urea, which is about rupees 5,378 per ton, okay, or rupees 242 or for a 45 kgs bag here. Okay, so for 45 kgs bag it is like 242 rupees. So since companies they have to sell this controlled rate, the subsidy is variable. Subsidy is variable from one state to another state and as well as from one country to another country. So this is one cause of concern. And other fertilizers, the government only gives a fixed per ton subsidy, and this means that subsidy is fixed. And while the there is a variable that is seen in this pricing of this fertilizer. So in this way there is a decontrolling. So there is a decontrolling of this fertilizer that is seen over MRP. So in some areas they will be selling like MRP and some areas they will be reducing the cost. So in this way here, so we can see there is no fixed price that is present for this fertilizers here. And even for some non-urea fertilizer, government mainly launches some nutrient based subsidy scheme. So if you are talking about this nutrient based subsidy scheme, here we are mainly talking about nitrogen, potassium and as well as phosphorus and sulfur. So under this nutrient based subsidy scheme, so here the fixed amount of subsidy is calculated for each fertilizer based on the government decisions. Okay, so based on the government decision, and government will mainly going to decide fertilizer price for as per the nutrients like nitrogen, phosphorus, sulfur and as well as potassium. And next one is, we can see that it means subsidy which is very much different when compared with that of one fertilizer to another fertilizer. And it also allows manufacturers, marketers and importers to fix MRP on these phosphatic and as well as phosphatic fertilizers. Okay, so now here manufacturers and marketers and as well as importers, they are mainly ready to fix MRP here. So the domestic and as well as international cost of this fertilizers, that is potassium and phosphorus fertilizers, it's mainly considered as along with the country's inventory levels and as well as the current exchange rates in order to decide the MRP here. So this is the thing which mainly said by international things. And if you're talking about need, what can be done? So first one here is cushioning the farmer from price rise. So here whenever there is a rising of this subsidy which is happening, so that will also increase in the fiscal burden. So we need to protect the farmer from the price, and we must also take some efficient steps to decrease this import bill of this fertilizer. And we need to go for boosting of production. So we can go for growing of cotton and as well as soybean in western and northern regions of India, and with sufficient subsidy here what happens, the farmers would be able to grow more produce in the Kharif season. Okay, so we need to boost growing of cotton as well as soybean in the western as well as northern region, because these areas are very much suitable for their production. And apart from this, we need to tackle always this COVID-19 impact as well. So farmers, they are having already undergone some severe stress due to the challenges which are mainly posed by this COVID-19 pandemic. So it mainly includes loss of urban remittances and even the cost of living of these people and healthcare facilities. And there is also having some financial burden. And on another side, there is increasing of subsidy that will also provide some relief for these people. And if you're talking about political considerations, so some experts, they are also viewing that rise in subsidies as a move to prevent and as well as to resurgence of this farmers protest and as well as second wave of this COVID-19. So if you see here, so some events, some experts are also saying that yes, we need to go for increasing of this subsidy here. And if you're talking about what are the issues, the first one is there is no linear policy. That means currently there is nobody, okay, there is anybody can purchase quantity of fertilizers through POS, that is by through cards. They can go for purchasing of this fertilizer, but on this one card there is limit like 100 bags, okay, 100 bags per transactions, but there is no limit which is placed on the number of transactions. For example, I can go for this fertilizer shop and by using my card I can buy 100 bags on that day, but in the next, if I go next day also I can get 100 bags. So in this way there is no limit of transactions. I can make n number of transactions, I can get n into 100 bags of fertilizer. So this is one cause of concern. There is no linear policy, okay. Currently anybody, they can purchase any quantity of this fertilizer through POS machines, and limit here is per transaction I can get 100 bags, and next day I can go and I can get number of transactions. So there is a no limit on the number of transactions. So because of this I can get, for example, 500 of bags of this fertilizer, but I can use only 100 bags, okay. The limit, the amount I can use here is 100 bags, but what about this rest 400 bags? So this rest 400 bags, that will be diverted from me. So this is one of the important cause of concern. And this one is, it will also leads to environment degradation. So the subsidies, they have enabled the overutilization of fertilizers on agriculture lands. So this is especially due to super cheap urea, okay. So because of decrease in the cost of this urea, and it is available at a low cost because of fertilizer subsidy which is given by farmer. So I will be using large amount of fertilizer. So because of using of bulk urea which is applied to soil, which is lost as NHC, that is ammonia, into atmosphere. And even what happened, there is poor absorption of this nitrogen that is seen. And because of increased amount of use of fertilizer, that will also leads to degradation of our soil, and as well as that will leads to water pollution, that is groundwater pollution. And this one is, it will also leads to economic cost. So the central government, which mainly spends about rupees 80,000 crore on subsidies for chemical fertilizers every year. So every year our government will spend about rupees 80,000 crore on subsidies. So because of this, it is also increasing on financial burden, right, on government. And next one is, it is also having some health impacts. Because of overuse of fertilizer, it also pollutes our groundwater, and the people who are mainly consuming that, especially infants and as well as elderly people. So this groundwater which is polluted by this fertilizers, that mainly contains high amount of nitrogen or nitrates. So they mainly tell us blue baby syndrome, okay. So the baby will be turned into blue color. And next one is way forward, what can be done. So this way forward which is given in this article, so whatever the thing which we discuss now, it is mainly done by my research. I did much research to give a detailed picture of what is this fertilizer subsidy. And now this way forward I took from today's article, okay. In order to address multiple issues that we are seeing regarding this fertilizer subsidy, so we need to have some policy work, or we need to have some policy changes. So first one is, we need to be self-reliant and we need not depend upon import of fertilizers. So as you all know, these fertilizers, they are mainly imported from other countries. So that will improve or that will leads to our high cost of this fertilizer. And whenever the high cost of fertilizer is seen, so government will be providing subsidies. So in the same way here, government will be need to pay much amount, and there will be increasing of forex reserve spending, right. So that will lead to decreasing of our forex reserves. And even on one more side, so government need to provide subsidy, so that will leads to increase in financial burden. So we need to come up with self-reliant, and as well as we should not depend much on our imports of our fertilizers, okay, such that we can come out of this volatility of international crisis. of these fertilizers. And second one is we need to extend this NBS model to urea, and we need to allow for price rationalization of urea than compared to that of these non-nitrogenous fertilizers. And this one is we need to develop some alternative sources. For example, we can use some biofertilizers. So if you are having agriculture, means you will be also having some agriculture related allied sectors. For example, poultry will be there, animal husbandry will be there. So from that we can go for preparation of biofertilizer. So for example, stubble burning, it is one of the important cause for pollution in this NCR. So from this stubble burning, also from this stubble we can go for manufacturing of for example biomanure by using this Pusa decomposer. So we can go for searching of this type of alternatives. And finally, India need to pay attention to improve fertilizer efficiency, and we need to use rather than broadcasting fertilizer in this field. And these changes will be very much helpful, mainly to address challenges and issues we are facing in this fertilizer sector. So this is gist of this topic, and I hope it is clear. And now let us try to see some more important topics that appear in today's Hindu newspaper. They include dynamism in India-US ties. So this is regarding India-US relations. So there is upcoming meet that is going to be held, right? So after this meeting is held, we are going to discuss that topic. And apart from that, we are also having one more topic like reversing follies in haunted Battleground. So you can also read this article. So it is regarding Afghanistan crisis. So already we discussed these two topics in earlier lectures. So if you want, you can go to these topics. So before concluding, I want to make a small announcement. We came up with this prelims test series and as well as mains answer writing course. So in this prelims test series, you are having 30 tests, and this includes CSAT and as well as GS. So in GS, we have sectional test, we have revision test, we have a full length test. And this in this test series, we are mainly covering each and every topic in our syllabus, and we also gave you detailed micro listing of topics and detailed schedule. So if you want to find that attachment of that schedule, it is given in description box, so please see that once. And if you are talking about this mains answer writing course, in this course we are especially focusing on the static syllabus. So daily one question will be given as per the given schedule, okay? And on Sundays there will be essay or case studies, and we gave micro listing of topics, and if you follow that, each and every nook and corner of your syllabus is covered for sure. And this 1 year course, there will be evaluation and even one-to-one mentorship. And we also came up with this foundational course for UPSC. And in this foundational course, there are about more than 700 hours of lectures, that is video lectures, and there will be like each and every part of our syllabus will be covered, and 100% concept clarity will be there for sure. And we are covering each and every topic in our syllabus, and also we are covering those topics which we are related with this current affairs as well. And next one is there is one-to-one mentorship. In this foundational course, if you join this, you will be getting this prelims test series and as well as this mains answer writing for free, okay? And if you want to take some individual courses, if you are weak in so and so subject, means you can take individual subjects as well. So the details of these courses are given in our website, so please visit our website for these details. And if you want to talk to me directly regarding any of these courses, you can call to this number 8074765513. So by this I am concluding today. I hope you enjoyed this lecture. Please subscribe to Rathod's IAS and don't forget to like, share and comment my videos. Thank you so much.